Hi everyone, I'm Daisy Rocha and this is what's happening in Brazil. We'll start by updating you on the latest news from the country. Last week, social media platform X shut down its Brazilian office, citing threats from Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes. About 30 employees were laid off through a virtual meeting. The former Twitter was bought by Musk in 2022 and renamed it X. By that time, the company had over 100 employees in Brazil, and Musk immediately promoted a mass layoff. The current decision is considered by specialists and the Brazilian government as an attempt to avoid justice. Brazilian users will be able to use the X social media as before. TV host and businessman Silvio Santos died last Saturday in São Paulo at 93. Born in Rio de Janeiro, he started as a street vendor and radio announcer before founding SBT, one of Brazil's biggest TV networks. He expanded his business to other areas, becoming one of the wealthiest men in the country. Despite being acclaimed by the public for over 50 years, Santos was a supporter of the dictatorship, accused of racism and sexism during his live TV programs, and suspected of corruption. Nevertheless, decades on Brazilian TV made him a larger-than-life character that will be missed by many in the country. Over 1,000 grassroots movement participants attended the G20 Social Summit in Rio de Janeiro this week. Topics related to the climate crisis, such as energy transition and climate justice, were among the issues presented to authorities. Participants debated proposals for more inclusive and sustainable global governance. A Brazilian report shows that since the arrival of Portuguese colonizers in 1500, the country has lost a third of its native vegetation, with 20% of it lost by 1985. In the last 39 years, this has increased to 33%, with half in Amazon. Today, over 32% of Brazil's land is now used for agriculture, the main cause of deforestation. In our story of the week, you will see how the government of Rio Grande do Sul created a plan to rebuild the state after the floods with the participation of civil society. However, the private sector is much more represented than environmental organizations.
It has been more than 100 days since the floods that devastated Rio Grande do Sul, but the route of the reconstruction process is still being disputed. That is clear in the Rio Grande Plan, launched by the state government to propose reconstruction measures in a council of more than 180 members. The Eduardo Leite government called on representatives from agencies and organizations such as municipal associations, regional councils, business and union federations, investors, and universities. The list also includes dozens of businessmen such as Jorge Gerdau and the CEO of an amusement park in the city of Gramado. However, the state's environmental organizations, which have historically debated environmental issues, were left out. The repercussions were negative, which made the government change its mind.
Só que as entidades elas estão colocadas num gueto.
The organizations are in a ghetto, in a single environmental group dealing with the small agendas, specific agendas. In addition, there is a lack of environmental organizations in positions where they can contribute for the reconstruction and the development of the state of Rio Grande do Sul. The ecological vision is not included in the Rio Grande Plan because environmental organizations are not part of it.
One of the first environmental organizations in Brazil, HIB, was not invited to join the board of the Rio Grande Plan. This raises concerns about the approach of this reconstruction model.
The economic issue comes first, and the state is making the same mistakes that brought Rio Grande do Sul to the calamity, to the chaos we are experiencing today.
The city statute stipulates that Brazil's urban policy must be managed democratically, with broad participation and not restricted to government offices. However, experts' understanding is that neoliberalism has taken urban development and business groups end up calling the shots in this game.
I think that there is a real risk of having an environmental council only for show, to fulfill the requirement that it has to be managed with popular participation, but a rigged game with the same actors, linked to the real estate market and capital which, in fact, reproduce themselves and use the territory of cities for expanding their activities, have a much more significant representation than civil society.
The opposition to the Leite government in Rio Grande do Sul's parliament points out that President Lula's administration has released a lot of funds to support the state. However, there are concerns about the use of the money.
He has made far-reaching changes to the environmental code, including in areas aimed at environmental preservation. Leite changed even previous legislation so that water resources could be used and agriculture too, but the main change was environmental self-licensing. Along with the idea of environmental denialism, the state government focuses on privatizing services. It's handing over our heritage to the private sector. It's a huge risk, with so many resources and such an important society of intelligent reconstruction, not having the leading role of the bodies and those who study and think about the environment.
Have you wondered why Brazilian Portuguese is so diverse? In addition to its European origins, the Portuguese spoken in Brazil has also been influenced by indigenous and African languages. In this week's Culture Talk, you will see a little of the African heritage in our language. The exhibition called African Languages That Make Brazil is at the Museum of the Portuguese Language in São Paulo.
Dendê or canjica, quilombo, samba, and even fofoca. These are some of the words from the African languages that make Brazil, the recently launched exhibition at the Museum of the Portuguese Language in São Paulo. Languages that play and continue to play an important role in shaping our language, whether through vocabulary or the way words are pronounced and sentences intoned, even if we don't know how to structure them. The proposal to recover memories and the language's history comes with interactivity. Some of the elements that help to tell the story of the African influence through languages such as Yoruba and the Bantu group on the Portuguese spoken in Brazil are mirrors, cowrie shells, beads, drums, music, and adinkra. These African symbols are still very much present on gates and railings of houses in Brazil today, like what means the wisdom of learning with the past.
It was impossible for an exhibition like this not to be directed towards the other perspective of understanding what language is, a way of existing.
And with an exhibition that goes beyond spoken or visual language, the experience is even better.
I came to the African Languages exhibition for the second time. First, I wanted to enjoy this beautiful exhibition that makes us embrace our language. We speak a language and often don't feel that it comes from so many other words, that it comes from so many African words that are in our daily lives, and that we're not even aware that we're speaking. The second point is that I work with cultural accessibility, and this exhibition is accessible. So I was with my colleague here who is deaf, and tomorrow I'm going to bring a blind friend. So it's an exhibition that also welcomes audiences that need more specialized communication.
The Museum of the Portuguese Language also has the main exhibition, now renovated, here on the second floor. Interactive and playful installations, such as the Alley of Words and the Language Square, are some of the most popular experiences for those who visit the museum. And in the alley, the prize for those who put the word together is to know precisely where it came from. It is easier and more interesting to learn, especially for children. On average, 23,000 people have visited the museum each month this year alone.
The Museum of the Portuguese Language understands language as part of our culture, so we have a long timeline that tells a bit of the story, but we also have different experiences because our challenge is always to tell it in a very playful way. That's why we are a museum for different ages and different audiences. Our long-term exhibition is the same, but it's very different because it now also includes all the Portuguese-speaking countries in the world, so there's a bit of this new dimension to our collection.
A música, a palavra e o pensamento, numa sintonia e numa sincronia perfeita.
Do you like the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We will see you next week.